So I had bought stainless steel bolts, and they were not long enough, or they were too long. So I went back to town thinking that I would buy shorter bolts, but then, you know, because I'd already opened the packages on a lot of these, it sort of occurred to me that washers were cheaper than shorter bolts. So I got one, I bet maybe 2 or 3 washers per each one of these. Might get me there. That actually looks like 2 would. So I'm going to pop them out. Now this one here has the equivalent of washers because it has the thickness of this piece of metal, which is that's pretty thick, you know. So I will experiment with how many washers I need in each one of these. And with your amazing patience, you being able to watch me do this without losing your mind, y'all can hang out with me and watch me do this, hopefully without losing your mind. So what I'm going to do is just slip 2 washers on. And usually, I'll just tell you this about washers. Usually there's a side that appears to be kind of rounded, and then there's a side that appears to be kind of square cut. They look better if you put the rounded side out and the square cut side in. Just a little tip for you. So let's try putting that one in and see if we think we need an additional washer there. Now, one of the things you can tell about lock washers, we'll talk about lock washers a little bit. A lock washer is a washer with a cut. See this washer right here, and there's a cut in it, and it's sprung a little. And somebody told me once, you don't have to tighten your bolt any tighter than it takes to close that cut together, because that cut locks that down. I don't know if that's true, but I tend to kind of go by that because I've seen people do damage. In fact, I have done damage to things that I've been working on because I just felt like I needed to tighten it so tight that a lot of times what I would do is wind up damaging the nut, the bolt, whatever it was I was screwing it into, stripping threads, stuff like that. So on the exhaust manifold, what you're going for is something that will hold it on there tight enough for the exhaust not to leak out. And you've got a nice big gasket here, so I'm guessing that that's good enough. This has a lot to say just to say that I think that's good enough. But I do have a little bit of you know, reasoning behind my thought process. I'm not just pulling this stuff out of the air. I don't know if it's correct or not, but we can roll with it. Now I'm using this little short socket for a reason. On a little short socket like this, reach in here and grab a bolt. This bolt will not go in there any further than a little bit, which means I can push this in. If I was using one of these, I wouldn't be able to push it in because it would disappear down into there, and there's no way, you know, if a bolt isn't much longer than that, there's nothing to push on. So sometimes I'll use a little short socket specifically on something like this where I kind of need to push it in to get the threads to take. And that works. By the way, I got a whole bag of washers here, like a double handful for $2. These bolts here run about $4 a piece, so financially that turned out to be a good deal also. And I spent enough. I spent a lot of money on this motor, but I wanted it to be nice, so You know, I didn't mind spending money on it. I kind of knew that it was going to be what I wanted it to be, and it was going to cost me a little money, but I was willing to spend the money to get what I'm going to have when I get through. If you're building an old car, I mean, you just have to decide, are you going to go cheap, or are you going to spend the money it takes to get it to be what you want it to be? Sometimes, you know, going cheap is all you can do, like, you know, picking nuts and bolts off the junk cars out in the back field there instead of going out and buying them. I completely understand that because I've been there lots during my life, and I know that sometimes that's what you have to do to get what you need. You know, you just have to work with what you got, work with what you can afford. But at this stage in my life, where I'm an old guy, I'm kind of retired, I've kind of, you know, got the house already and everything, I can afford to, you know, get a few nice things to go along with the car. Once I build this car, I'm not going to be building others. You know, this is not Richard's car building life. This is, I've been building cars all my life, and I'm going to perfect these few cars that I have, and I'm going to live with them for the rest of my life, and I want them to last the rest of my life. And I want to be able to jump in them and go for a ride in them and take them across the country if I want to. So I'll spend a little extra to get what I want here. There. That's good. Now we can come around to the front of the motor and look at the belt. This belt. Holy